Lupert, who's going to be reading for us in April. And he is just an exceptional poet. And this particular book I'm reading from is one of his publications. It's called God Wrestler, and a poem for every Torah portion by Rick Lupert. So he's a Jewish poet. And this one's about Moses and the rock.
I feel outclassed already.
No. It's called Chukat. Oh, water, source of life. When I need you, which is all the time. Oh, water, you can't blame Moses for striking the rock instead of talking to it. These days and those days, you talk to a rock, no one will listen, not even the rock. Oh, water, if you could get the rock to listen, be kind. Even the rock will grow. Deaf ears if you issue demands with fury. Surely you're not angry with the rock. It's not the rock's job to give water anyway. Why are you yelling at the rock? Why are you hitting the rock? What made you think the rock would want to develop any kind of flow? Is this how you get what you want? Is this how even a rock should be treated? Oh, water, I need you like I need you. I'm mostly you. The best parts anyway. Satisfying, sustaining, wet. Is that redundant? Sorry. Wet is your best feature, oh water. Where am I going with you? Rivers go where? They go, and I'm just along for the ride. 40 years in now, and there's the Jordan. Oh water, it's filled with you, and it won't be long before we cross over. Most of it. We're dropping like flies in the desert. A sister, a brother, a generation of people who remember Egypt's soil gone. The water, will you recognize us when we get there? We can almost taste the land that was promised. Sorry about the yelling. Sorry about the stick. We couldn't do this without you. I just love this guy. So he'll be joining us in April, and I'm very excited. I discovered him sort of a friend of a friend, and I friended him. And then a couple weeks ago, I thought, I really like his posts. Why did I friend him? Who is he? Did some hunting around, and just really love his work. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I'll introduce Don here. Don Feliz was born in Santa Rosa and grew up in Fresno and various Bay Area counties. After graduating from San Francisco State College University, he enlisted in the U.S. Regular Army to serve in Germany. He was selected for the Berlin Brigade. The Berlin Wall was built midway through his 2-year tour. He has lived in Sacramento now since 1968 and started writing poetry in 1995. Don's poems have been published in Brevities, Poets Forum magazine, Rattlesnake Review, The Gathering, the Ina Coolbrith Circle, 2005 and 2007 anthologies. He's a former co-editor of Freewheeling, which was an annual poetry journal published by the Tao, now known as the California Auto Museum in Sacramento. And I know Don from our association at the Heart Center here in Sacramento, and I've loved his poetry for years.
Welcome.
Okay, Don, take it away.
So is that the introduction? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Again, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. A couple of years ago, I visited Tubac, which is a small village in southern Arizona. It was the first European settlement in Arizona back in the old days. And it was the beginning point for Spanish colonists to come to California through Arizona, well, through what became Mexico and Arizona. And their leader was Juan Bautista de Anza. And there are some place names named for him, like De Anza, whatever, De Anza Borrega, I believe, and so on. Anyway, some of my relatives were in that group. They were all the same family. Vicente was a corporal in the Spanish army, and he came along with his wife, Maria, and 6 children. Well, they started with 6. And I wrote a series of poems about the journey that they're taking. And I hope to expand it into maybe a book. So it's a work in progress, starting with the spark in Mexico City. Captain Juan Bautista de Anza spread words of his 1774 trek to Alta California. It was claimed by the Spanish king Carlos III. By summer of 1775, Viceroy of New Spain, Antonio Bucareli, knew that he needed settlers to hold the land and decreed that Anza should lead a group to colonize there. He made Anza a colonel and sent him to recruit a band of settlers from poverty near Sinaloa with provisions purchased by the crown for their expedition. Sinaloa was wasted mining area that had been expended over the previous century or so. So we got the group together, and the dawn on Anza's trail was like this. Horsemen round up their 1,000 animals. Women make meals and ready children before tents are struck and the fires doused. All help load everything on 160 pack mules and pray for power to move their mile-long caravan following Anza's trail. The next poem is an ekphrastic about a picture which I gave to Rick. Can you show that, Rick?
Yes.
At this point? No, that's the book.
Right, here it is.
There you go. There you go. Good, good. All right. This is a picture that was given to the Arizona Historic Museum in Tubac, which is now a historic site and an artist colony. The artist is named Armando Merino, and he's a former bullfighter born in Mexico. And he painted this painting and gave it to the group. And the woman in red near the bottom of the painting is Maria. Maria's last picture, 1775. Maria stands in Tubac Plaza, ready for her trip of a lifetime. She waits with 230 truckers for the mounted Anza's order to take first steps over the 1,000-mile trek to El Dorado with her soldier husband and 6 children. Maria journeys north 5 leagues with the crowd to Canoa, where she gives birth to a son, and her life's journey ends. A league is about 3.5 miles. And we'll leave Maria momentarily. 3 fathers: Father Francisco Garcias, Father Juan Diaz, and Father Pedro Font join Anza's settler trekkers at Tupac, with soul for them on their hard trail to San Francisco. They start each day with Mass and sing the Alabado or Ave Maria as they string out over the first mile. Font's journals are poem prompts. Garcias and Diaz drop out at Yuma with God's word for native converts. Anza's start, 1775. Minutemen sparred with redcoats in New England when Spain's Charles III directed Colonel Juan Batista de Anza to lead 30 Spanish colonist soldiers with their diverse families on his second journey from Tupac Presidio to Bountiful, California. They were a diverse colonial group in 1775, willing to drive themselves and 1,000 animals over 1,200 miles to a better life than poverty in Sonora's exhausted mining country. Anza's soldier pioneers tested the trail for colonial subjects of his king to create firm claims on California, while Britain fought their own colonists in New England. The trekkers gathered over 200 miles between Sonora and Tupac, the northernmost outpost of Spain's desert empire. Anza followers used no wagons on rustic trails. They rode horses and packed supplies on mules. 1,000 cattle and spare horses walked. "100 steps. Each caravan travel day is a step for the Spanish king to found a colony on San Francisco Bay. Days all start the same way. Prepare the children with a morning meal. Strike the tents. Pack the mules, round up the cattle, and mount the horses. Move forward when the leader signals. 4 soldiers ride ahead as guides to a campsite with water and feed for the animals. Anza, the commander, leads. Chaplain Font, then men, women, children, and soldiers with families. A rear guard of soldiers ensures security ahead of the mule train. And last come colony cattle. In a half hour, all caravanners are spread over a mile in their first step to California. Journey ends October 25, 1776. 75. On day one, New Life joined Anza's trek 5 leagues north from Tubac. Maria Ignacia Manuela Pinolas Feliz delivered Jose Antonio Capistrano, then received last rites in a tent at La Canoa. On day 2, mother and son were carried 6 leagues north to San Xavier del Bac for burial and baptism at the mission. The last rest, Father Garcias took 4 men to carry Maria ahead of the settlers' slower group to Mission San Xavier del Bac. The men dug her grave, and she had last rites when her family arrived with the Anza group. I assume she's buried there. The grave is unmarked. There's just a kind of a big field. But I like to think she's there because she's my great, 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 great grandmother. Trail reality. The second day on Anza's trail, his followers moved with little joy toward the last Christian mission, San Xavier del Bac. Maria Feliz had died overnight in childbirth at the Canoa campsite, and the caravan assumed funeral character. Widow Corporal Vicente Feliz duties meant 7 orphans would journey to California with foster families. Since this is a work in progress, there are a lot of miles missing from us later on or further on. However, I did record one of the stops that Dianza made. 5 days from Tubac, Anza ordered a day of rest and ventured to the nearby landmark at Casa Grande ruins, named by priest explorer Francisco Kino in 1694. A high 420 by 260 foot wall of different sized caliche earth blocks surrounded the 3-storied ruined palace's meter-thick walls and solar observatory. The wall and palace were perfectly aligned with east, west, north, and south cosmic bearings. It had rooms 10 by 26 feet and 2 halls 12 by 38. Hohokam Sonoran people abandoned it in 1450 after irrigating maize and cotton for over 4,000 years from the Gila River and centuries of trade among 6 tribes. Anza admonished his soldiers for stickers and insults they gave the Pimas about their myth of a prince who built the palace in the desert. The prince was called Drinker, and Pimas believed he had coyote and hummingbird bring mud to create humans and populate the desert in all directions. Northern people spoke a different language and were bad They fought the good Pimas, an angered drinker. So he made the sun lower to show his power and changed bad people into saguaros. That's why there are so many cacti and it is so hot in the desert. And skipping farther ahead to the end of the journey, Anza reached San Francisco, but the group that was still with him didn't go that far. They stopped to rest in Santa Clara, approximately. So, Palo Alto, March 29, 1776. That's 4 months after he started. Anza fought and 5 soldiers surveyed for settlement sites near their San Francisco River. They didn't know it was a bay yet. They found fertile lands and woods near water sources and named one Arroyo de los Dolores. Returning south to join the settlers, Font measured the tallest of trees as 5 meters around and 50 tall. He also didn't know that it was not Good Friday. He thought it was. Good Friday is Vernes de Dolores. Palo Alto means tall tree. So that's the limit of my Anza project so far.
So let's open it up if people would like to ask questions. Don, I have one question for you.
Yes.
I'll stop sharing the image here first.
Well,
I'm curious.
well,
You want to bring it back?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What's the question?
I was wondering about how you first found out about your ancestor. Was this something that was passed down in your family?
Oh yeah, I have genealogical records of all the people. I can't name them, but I have records that I can name everybody from now back to 1776.
Uh-huh.
In my immediate line, Vicente had a number of siblings, and I don't have records on them and all the rest of them. So exponentially, there are a lot of us, but I don't only know of some.
I have a question. What kinds of records were you using? I mean, here they were traveling across unpeopled properties and lands and dying on the way. Where did you obtain these records? Birth and death and that kind of thing.
Well, I obtained them from my aunt who did all the research. So
You don't know the source.
But there are historic societies that track all the people who are on this journey.
Okay.
And there's a historic I don't know what you'd call it exactly, an association that tracks the De Anza history. But my main source was the book that I've lost track of now. Oh, here it is. Which was about the journey itself. And this author used the notes that were taken by Father Font primarily,
Okay.
but De Anza and others took some notes, and so he researched it. There, you can have a look at this.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it later. Anyway, that's the source, and I have not exhausted it yet, which is why I have gaps in what I'm doing.
You know, I was when I was watching the most recent Game of Thrones season, they were talking about it starts with the perils of childbirth in years past, and they would likened it that for men were out on the battlefield, but for women, their battlefield was in childbirth.
That's right. Yeah. There are several groups that reenact some of these Dianza moves, like his arrival at San Francisco. There's a Dianza Days that's celebrated there at the Presidio, which is a park now, and they do the same thing at Tubac. And I think it's the Tubac reenactment is the departure. And at the San Francisco end, I have never seen it, but I think it's probably more like the arrival. And the like the founding of the colony, which was not called San Francisco at the time. And I mentioned San Francisco is a river. That's what they thought it was. They called it a river.
Do you have some other poems for us also, Don?
I'm sorry?
Do you also have some other of your regular poems?
Yeah. Now I have more contemporary things. Rolling forward a couple of hundred years, I bought an electric car a couple of years ago, and I was driving back from Los Angeles on the Grapevine, and just coasting downhill, and it's very quiet. If any of you have been in an electric car, that's the way it is. And of course, 2 years ago, that was more novel. And I had this impression, north on the Grapevine, flying down the Grapevine on I-405 in my new electric car. Empty straightaways like a landing system instrument glide path. It's quiet inside, like waiting for my plane to reach the landing zone. Except I already have. Pavement on both sides, there will be no touchdown. And jumping ahead on the freeway to Sacramento, en route to the poetry workshop, we used to pause at a stop sign that left us underneath a freeway near the poetry center. And we'd always see the same woman there, the freeway diva. She sits under the freeway on her green garden chair. She sits doing crosswords or composing her memoirs. She sits with a market cart piled high with pink pillows. She sits in her spot every day, living until dusk. When she moves her treasure cart to a safe sleeping dark. And in the poetry mode, I have an ekphrastic. Unfortunately, I don't have the picture for it, though, but it's by Joanne Tucker, and it's provided by Google. And they Google ekphrastic challenge. And this is this month's challenge. So you have 2 days to write a poem for it because it's only a month at a time. Prompts delivery. My muse stood barefoot at her flying skillet to bring a jar of images and metaphors. If witches can fly on broomsticks, And wizards on carpets, why not on a speedy skillet? Except it gets too hot to stand in, and she must step out quickly at trip's end. And the picture is of a amused-looking young woman with bare feet stepping out of this skillet, having arrived where she was. A couple of years ago, some young people took me to a lake in the mountains that I had never seen. It was almost at the tree line. Hike to Long Lake. A granite outcropping juts toward the mirrored surface like a thirsty gargoyle. Narrow, natural bonsai pines grow in granite crevices, struggling to survive. Sparse, naked gray snags flank down drowned forest sentinels at attention. Granite slabs, terrace campsites present lakeside panoramas. Night at Long Lake. Reflected pines merge into shadow as twilight zephyrs dimple the lake. Setting sun backlights tree line, becomes a black sawtooth horizon. This cloudless blue dome darkens into star fields around Milky Ways. The full moon rises, dim star view reflects on the length of Long Lake. Last January, it rained a lot. And I thought of this. Rain results. Winds howl, drive rain horizontally, buffet fences, blow some flat. Leaf canopies billow like sails, far enough to break limbs, topple tall trees. Shallow roots fail in soft, soaked garden soil, thirsty after years of drought. And also in the neighborhood, Pixie Block. My street's last block has its own name for its street. It curves from south to west, divides around huge trees, has yards of worldly plants. Its eclectic house designs use many materials: bricks, stone, timber, shakes, plaster, stucco, shaped with whimsy. A couple of thousand miles away, another neighborhood has swans. One pair of nesting swans comes each spring to my friend's neighborhood pond. Their nest box is set offshore, safe from animals, where they can discourage Canada geese. About 6 eggs hatch by summer, and the family entertains pond visitors until winter, when the Swan Rental Company takes the nest box and all the swans to warmer waters. when time began for me. Magazine covers pictured rows of similar houses for smiling people, happy that we would never have another world war. Inside, they showcased new tools and products seldom seen when I was born, automatic laundries, rich packaged or frozen food. Now that time is running out for me, publishers show new generations of happy faces, living dreams, while a dozen wars rage not here. When no houses shelter displaced masses, crowded on margins of most cities, without comforts and security pledged when our nation began. Founders cried freedom for all like them, rallied crowds and wrested it from the supreme ruler, their king. They drained public treasure for over 2 centuries and still cry for freedom to extract more riches for them. Everyone else seeks freedom from their places on the bottom tier of community investments for public education, for community capital quality of life, for freedom from climate disaster. Founder successors buy freedom to strangle investment in public finance, sell natural resources overseas. Public shares of productivity gains collect in counting rooms of plutocrats and oligarchs whose greed has ignored the general welfare and the blessings of liberty provided in the U.S. Constitution's preamble. A little change of pace here.
Oops. Don, we lost your image.
It was a change of pace.
That was a big change. See.
Allegra, where's she? There's Allegra. You're muted.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi, Allegra.
Oh, well, I'm enjoying it immensely. I'm sorry I was late. As usual, I was struggling with the technology, but it finally worked. Now, I do not see my picture. Is it show? But evidently it is showing
Not here.
to you.
Norma, we see your name, but we don't see a picture of you.
Well, I'm on my screen. It's to the left of yours, Rick.
Yeah, we may be out of squares.
Let me close this here.
Pardon?
Just a second. So Don's reconnecting back in. Yeah, Norma, we don't have a picture of you. And you're muted at the moment also. Here we go, Don. We got you back.
He's on the phone now, trying to get in. Okay, now unmute yourself.
Sent him tried to send him a message, and it says Don is not in the meeting. That's weird.
Oh,
Let's see.
now he's unmuted.
Okay,
There we go.
okay. Are we okay?
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you all. What happened was I tipped over a bottle of water,
uh-oh.
but it doesn't look like it flowed into any of the electronics. It's just made a mess. But we can continue.
That's called a technological difficulty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's my time?
Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Well, this next poem is Virus Protection. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because, I can't tell. Many strangers wear a mask. We can't tell who they are. If they're smiling or sulking, blissful or brooding, should we fear them or people with no masks?
Oh, God. Okay.
In 1939, some of us know already that the Germans marched into Poland and started World War II. 1939, again, followers of the Tsar massed on the boundary. There were more of them than he required to alarm the borderland and its alliances everywhere. They claimed assemblies are benign until the Tsar fanned ready flames, ignited waiting troops into blitzkrieg. Four million freedoms came after 3 centuries of bondage, building capital wealth for the ruling class. Free of chains and shackles, left behind with food bowls, blankets, and pallets in rustic shelters. The only source of life was land held by gentry and a century more of bondage to work it. Mandated mask cafe. We shared the only available table. She listened to me. I heard her tale. Our hands brushed, touched, clasped. As meals arrived, our mask came off to reveal her mustache matching mine. Little quirky
Yeah.
Valentine's story. You came before dinner with a big bag of treats and a red shiny heart on a stem like a rose. We perused my family photos you wanted to see and picked some to copy mostly of me. You left me a shiny rose, but took my heart with you. War show. Day after day, drones and aircraft scan invader tanks and trucks in a line 40 miles long, ready for action on a Ukrainian road. No troops are on guard or bring meals to the crew of armored vehicles which never move, like balloons staged for a parade. The next several poems are ekphrastic poems. And the first is about a painting of flowers by Monet. Flower forager. Camille strolls garden paths, picks red blossoms for the bouquet. She'll arrange to delight Claude when he returns from Paris today. Pachyderm pariah. The white elephant is shunned by other beasts as too weak for work and unfit for mud baths. Her mammoth works endlessly to make her presentable for their wealthy master who named her Snow. Palette. The painter's choice colors are mostly cool blues with a red and lavender. His palette is large enough to have more colors, but his stern look seems to tell us he feels blue today. Truth. I go to tell the leader in his gold tower, fire and smoke blanket the earth. The doorman demands cash from visitors who bring no media appeal. He takes everything I have, lets me take the stairs, circling the penthouse elevator shaft. A smirking sycophant lets me in to tell the leader most people need help. He stops counting his billions to say, let them work for success like I did. Fishing. After his wife died, he was lonely for company and found many attractive women toured art museums. The gift shop was quieter than the galleries. Women perused the catalogs for photos of what they had seen. He could drop his line that no photos are allowed, so we have to buy catalogs. Most women smile and usually close the book. They shared their contact moment with other attractive women and snicker. One didn't snicker. She smiled to herself and returned to the shop to buy the catalog. He was there to point out the best pictures and learn if her other interests matched his. The next day in the mountains, they walked to her favorite stream, set down their backpacks, and cast their lines to fish. relatively basic. A king thinks he's divinely destined to rule everything. An aristocrat may say he's better than the masses, but bows before the king. A farmer may think he has a good life when he knows no other. Kneeling reflection. Knees bend before a flag, a deity, a lover, or press darkly on a breath, a voice, a life. Capitalist cooks crowd around their kettle of common stew. They add bags of cash to sweeten the brew, send fuel to the flame, burn fossils that came, dissolved in oil, sucked from the soil. As our planet they cheat of resources to heat, carbon brews of wealth, choking the health of the rest of us.
Let's have maybe two more, and then we'll open it up.
Yeah, well, I've got one more in this set, but I've got a short set over here.
Okay.
Love. Fire ushers death through woods, leaving charred stumps and a blanket of ash. When one life turns to ashes, love remains. Its essence fills the room like perfume. It dwells in hearts of family and friends. Love restores life like embedded seeds, and bush survivors regenerate a forest from devastation. I have a group of 3 or 4 about colonies, about American colonies. Just a second. This is about George Washington. Surveyor. In backwoods, he marks the first fort site of Pittsburgh, angering the French. Soldier. French and Indian, leading his men into war under British rule. Commander. 20 years later, he'd called from his golden farms, American chief. Battle after battle. Astride my horse, I see the whole field of action. Bullets fly by. Brave men drop around me. Others bleed. Advance to step over fallen fellows. Shout. In anger, scream in pain. Inspire me to hold my sword. High, urge the troops to follow our flag. Break the British. Here's the commander's farewell. France's Tavern, December 4, 1783. Today I dread the farewell to my officers at France's Tavern as much as any battle. We have succeeded with unpaid amateurs and a cause stronger than empires. The last British transport lie in outer harbor, loaded with beaten troops and Tory supporters. 7 years since I last dined at Flounce's long table for a cold meal and a warm red wine. I toast them all, old comrades and new, my band of brothers, wish them long life and prosperity. With my heart full of love and gratitude, I take leave of them. Ask each one to come and shake my hand. Henry Knox is first. I kiss his cheek, and our tears begin. Each man in turn speaks no word, though he is weeping. When I leave to cross the Hudson, I face the crowd lining Manhattan's shore, open my arms and embrace them. One more. Okay. Journal entry, leaving Mount Vernon, April 30, 1789. I set off on April 10, riding across 3 states and 3 major rivers to New York and my inauguration. The ride becomes an ordeal of attention to me for hours on roads in dust from many well-wisher escorts. From town to town, each town fates me with clanging church bells, wildly cheering crowds, and speeches without end. Some even sport flower-covered arches where girls throw flowers before my horse. At the New Jersey shore, I find a specially built barge with 13 oarsmen waiting to cross the Hudson. After days of cheering by thousands, endless cannon salutes, a coach ride to Wall Street on April 30, 1789. I swear to become the first president of the United States and tell Americans that they are entrusted to preserve the sacred fire of liberty. God help us if they don't. That's it.
Thank you, Don. Okay, everybody unmute, and if you'd like to ask some questions or
Yeah, well, does anyone have questions
comments,
that I could answer?
yeah, go ahead and unmute yourselves, everyone.
Give me some easy questions. Okay.
I've got to go. Thank you very much, and thank you, Don, for your reading and the story about the about your ancestors. It was interesting. Thank you. Good evening. Have a great evening.
Take care.
Good evening to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, go ahead. Unmute yourself, Norma. Got to unmute yourself.
Do it?
There you go.
I hope.
Can hear you now.
Okay. Well, I just enjoyed this more than I can tell you, Don. And I have enjoyed your poems for decades because Don and I have shared the workshop when it was, vastly different. And Joyce Odom worked with me. So I've heard some were familiar, and I loved hearing them again. And a word crossed my mind that in all these years of commenting did not come to me. But today I thought there are 2 words that describe many of your poems, that they are pithy because they're so concise and well put, and that they're topical. You, I think, write topical poetry more than any of the other poets that have shared workshops with us. So it's just a joy. And the ones that were novel to me and fascinating were your poems about George Washington. Somehow I must have, maybe I was mending from a fracture or an implant or something when those came along. But anyway, I liked them a lot. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful reading. So thank you, Rick. And thank you, Don. And I'm going to take my leave now because a centenarian schedule is demanding. Goodbye, all.
Bye-bye, Norma.
Goodbye. So good to see your picture, Allegra. You look great. Now I have to find out how to leave. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Come on back. There we go.
Anybody have a poem that they'd like to share?
Oh, I could share one.
Allegra, thank you.
Hold it. I have to go find it. I just had a dance performance this afternoon, and another dancer danced to this poem, but let me just run and get it fast.
Okay.
This poem was in response to a painting by an artist of the Nutholes woodpeckers. And I did some drumming when I did the poem, but I won't be doing that now. But the other people were dancing and I was reading. Nutholes woodpeckers. These woodpeckers are found only in California, west of the Sierras, native to our valley. They love oak trees, but do not eat acorns. The bugs they find by tapping with sharp bills are tastier. Strong tail feathers help them to hold their balance while finding food. Listen, I think I hear one in the valley oak just across the fence. My eyes search for their speckled bodies, the male with his red crown and the female with the black one. I don't see them, but listen. Their drumming delights my ears. I think of the little drummer boy who brought his drum to play for a newborn child. I am a child again, receiving the message of these birds. Each oak tree in our valley is a treasure, where nutholes, woodpeckers, and other creatures make their homes. I love the mystery of their evolution only here. Here also, the mystery of my own being, the drumbeat of my heart in this, my valley home. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Allegra. Anyone else? Okay, Mark.
Thank you, Rick. And that was delightful, Allegra. You got me smiling from ear to ear. I love that poem.
Good.
The past is present. A house of shingles ensnared in vines and brush, as if a coil of barbed wire was stretched, then twisted out of shape. One side visible as the house jutted out closer to the sidewalk than the house next to it, the one with the spacious yard where children and dogs frolic. Upon occasion, you might notice a slat of a Venetian blind twitch above that coiling brush. The other side of the house was a foreboding melange of haphazardly placed tree branches like a game of pick-up sticks conducted in midair at adult's height. What mystery or horror awaited anyone who dared take path to its door? A couple afternoons a week, a figure emerged from the house. No one on the block knew his name. We just called him the old man, adults and children alike. Plain, simple white shirt and dusty gray suit coat. It was like he stepped out of a 1950s black and white TV. A book in his left hand always, head down more than forward, and walking north. If he saw children playing outside, he'd slow down, pace the sidewalk crack, teetering like a tightrope artist and sticking out his arms. He'd pretend to lose balance, then swirl around while whooshing like an airplane, landing with a giggle and a smile. The old man would ask us a couple questions about our day or what we were playing before challenging us to be good now and walking away to wherever he was going. The old man from our block reminded me of the old man from the Cracker Jacks commercials on my 1970s TV. Not his face, his smile, his kindness, a face I learned to trust. Nowadays, I am known for waving at every passing car as I walk through the parking lot in our complex. Children walking with their parents wave and dance and giggle while across the lawn I slow, giggle, dance, and wave back. In our world of stranger danger and horror stories awaiting a tap of a finger on a cell phone, I can only hope that 40 years from now, someone will tell the story of the old man in a beanie cap who, with a magical hand clap, brought a sunshine smile to a child's face and life. Only then, the circle of my life will truly be complete. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else out there have a poem? Okay, going once, going twice. So remember, our deadline for poetry contest is coming up on the 28th. So be sure to get your entries in. And we have some nice people lined up for the next few months. I may not be with you tomorrow, next month. I have to be in Arizona. I'm just not sure. I hope to be with you, but we will meet, but I'm not sure I'm going to be there. I'm going to be around the Phoenix area. I have a wedding to go to for my niece.
Now, who's the feature next month? You mentioned April.
Yeah. We don't. That's not lined up yet.
Oh, okay.
He said he had notice probably in the next week or so.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about April with Rick Lupert. And
Well, excited about what?
Rick Lupert, we talked about it. I read one of his poems. He's a Jewish
Okay.
poet from Los Angeles that I
Good.
discovered. And he one of the books that I was reading from was one called God Wrestler. And
Okay. Great title.
says a poem for every Torah portion. I was before I became a social worker, I was a religious studies major. So I have the Old Testament. It was just lots of great Old Testament references in here. And he's just got a wicked sense of humor. He
does. He runs Cobalt Poets poetry reading in Southern California for a couple of decades, and also poetrysuperhighway.com, where one of the contests was actually gifting one of your own chapbooks to another poet and get one in return sometime down the
Oh,
road.
what a
There's a
lovely
very
idea.
interesting cultural exchange in that
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all, and see you next month. Take care.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.